Andy Otto, and I'm on the pastoral staff at Ignatius House. The Psalms are this ancient prayer book that we continue to turn to. There are songs and poems that illustrate in a profound way humanity's interior relationship with God, filled with diverse emotions of love and praise, thanksgiving, lament, fear, and even shouting at God. The Psalms tell us that whatever we're experiencing, we can lay it all on God. No wonder people of faith have turned to them time and time again. You can categorize the Psalms in different ways, but over the next few weeks we're going to examine the Psalms of praise, lament, petition, and thanksgiving. But this week we figured we would begin with Psalm 139, one that many people know well, and that sets the grounding for all that follows in our life with God. You might even call it the principle and foundation of the Psalms. It begins speaking a truth about God to God. In fact, many of our liturgical prayers begin this way, telling God about God. It really is a kind of praise that in this psalm is divided into three truths. First, God knows me, knows my thoughts, knows my words before I can speak them. Your knowledge of me is too deep, the psalmist says. It is beyond my understanding. This is the gaze of God Ignatius speaks of. In fact, those who follow the pattern of Ignatian prayer often begin their prayer this way, resting in the loving gaze of God. This is not a gaze of fear, as if God is a Santa Claus in the sky, saying, I know when you are sleeping, I know when you're awake, I know if you've been bad or good. This is a God who is near, because God is love, and true love remains close by and dependable. The psalmist then speaks a second truth. This loving God is inescapable. God is above and below, east and west, even in the darkness. I remember meditating on Psalm 139 on a retreat, and I realized that I could cover myself in lead blankets in the deepest and darkest of caves, and God would still be there. How often have we tried to escape God, either because of fear or shame or a sense of unworthiness? Remember how Adam and Eve tried to hide in the garden? There's this verse in Bernadette Farrell's musical version of Psalm 139 that moves me every time I hear it. Although your spirit is upon me, still I search for shelter from your light. There is nowhere on earth I can escape you. Even the darkness is radiant in your sight. How often we try to escape that light. Why do we fear the light? God's shelter is a safe space, not one to fear. The author of the Psalms trusts the safety of God's mantle. The third truth is that God intimately created us, every part of us, as if we were knitted together stitch by stitch. Jesus must have had this psalm in mind when he said that God knows every hair on your head. What love, what attention and care God gives to us. O God, how difficult I find your thoughts, the psalmist says, embracing this mystery of himself and of God. Farrell's song says, for the wonder of who I am, I praise you. Safe in your hands, all creation is made new. And then, after all this praise, the psalm concludes with a lament, a part often cut from readings of it, and even from Bernadette Farrell's version. The psalmist begs the Lord to kill the wicked and violent people who speak poorly about God. How I despise those who rebel against you, it says. Again, God can handle our lament, our anger, even alongside our praise. It's clear this lament comes from a love of God. The psalmist is shaken by people who cannot see what he sees, who cannot know this intimate love of God he knows. And then the final verse is one of humility. Examine me. Find out if there is any evil in me and guide me in the everlasting way. We find other psalms that oscillate between praise and lament. It kind of is a pattern of our life, isn't it? Ignatius understood this when he said we could move back and forth between consolation and desolation, closeness to God and distance from God. But at least the psalmist knows that while God may feel far sometimes, God's love is always close, and there's nothing we can do to escape that love.